Now the news in detail. The Hanover police are investigating the drowning death of a 6-year-old boy in a pool at the Grand Palladium Hotel in the parish. The incident reportedly occurred on Wednesday. It is believed that the youngster, who was identified as Anil Hume Sires, was allegedly with his mother Mervelyn Bent, who was celebrating her 25th birthday. Eyewitnesses reported that Sires left the kiddies pool after it closed and joined his mother at the adult pool, where he sat in the shallow section with the other children. It was further reported that the 6-year-old male made his way to the deeper portion of the pool, where Bent spotted him struggling and shouted for help before her child was removed from the pool. Efforts to resuscitate him proved futile. He was later transferred to the Noel Holmes Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. According to commanding officer for the Hanover Police Superintendent Sharon Beepert, they have contacted the management of the resort, noting that the investigation continues. The St. Anne Police is yet to establish a motive behind the suspected murder of 3 persons, including a teenage boy whose bodies were found with incised wounds at their house in Freehill Bamboo, St. Anne on Monday. The deceased were identified as 50-year-old farmer Lawrence Badal, his cousin 47-year-old Antria Rattry, and Rattry's 13-year-old son Mike Bonito, who were all from Freehill. According to the head of the St. Anne Police Senior Superintendent Dwight Powell speaking to Loop News, the victims were found with incised wounds to their upper body, including their necks, at about 8:20 a.m. The discovery was reportedly made by a 15-year-old boy who was staying at the premises and was not harmed during the incident. According to Powell, the wounds to the deceased persons appeared to have been inflicted by either a knife or machete. He noted the case is being treated as a triple murder pending a proper determination. Based on a video of the gruesome scene that is being circulated via social media, Badal was seen lying on a sofa with a machete in his lap. In a bedroom, Micah was seen lying on the floor in a pool of blood, and his mother was found in the same room with wounds to her upper body. The usually quiet rural community in Bamboo, located in northwest St. Anne, is reportedly reeling from the gruesome discovery of the now deceased family members. A man is dead after his motor vehicle crashed into a utility pole along the Melrose bypass in Manchester. The deceased was identified as 34-year-old Jermaine Jackson of Miketown district in Mandeville. Reports were that about 1:30 a.m. on Monday morning, Jackson was traveling along the roadway when, upon reaching the vicinity of Yam Park, he allegedly lost control of the vehicle and crashed into a concrete utility pole. The police were notified and Jackson was taken to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead. You are listening to Midday News on Suncity 104.9 FM. The time is now 5 minutes after 12. We now continue with regional news. Trinidad police are to lay murder charges against 8 of their colleagues following the killing of 3 men in Morvant on the outskirts of Port of Spain in 2020. The country's Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions DPP on Monday night gave instructions to charge a sergeant and 7 constables in the deaths of 37-year-old Joel Jacob, 46-year-old Noel Diamond, and 27-year-old Israel Moses Clinton. Acting Police Commissioner MacDonald Jacob, speaking on a radio program on Tuesday, confirmed that the officers were arrested last weekend and are to be charged with murder. Reports were that on June 27, 2020, 18 officers assigned to the Guard and Emergency Branch and the Interagency Task Force intercepted a vehicle. Jacob, who was in the back seat with his childhood friend Diamond, emerged with his hands in the air. The driver, Clinton, also had his hands above the steering wheel as officers surrounded the car, pointing the automatic weapons. The shooting incident was captured on CCTV cameras and shared on social media mere hours after the incident. The killing of the three men sparked 3 days of violent protest in the capital city and other parts of the country, and the Prime Minister appointed a committee to find out the root causes of the protests. After the men were shot, police bundled their bodies in the back of a jeep and sped off, while other officers pointed their weapons at residents who were brave enough to peep through their windows. 8 Trinidadian police officers charged with 2020 murder. Still on the regional scene, Cuba has been flooded in recent years with motorinas, as the electric scooters are called on the island, which have been promoted by the government as efficient alternatives and amid extreme gas and diesel shortages, and as a solution to the country's transportation problems. Authorities permitted their importation last decade. Cubans cannot import motorcycles with gasoline or diesel engine, and since then, about 300,000 of them have circulated on the island, according to Colonel Mario Rios Labrada, head of vehicle registry at the National Transit Directorate. In comparison, there are an estimated 500,000 cars. The motorcycles can cost between $2,000 and $5,000. Many originate in China and are imported to Cuba through Panama. Cuban officials say a locally made electric motorcycle called Minerva is being produced at an old bicycle manufacturing warehouse in Villa Clara. Cuban drivers face shortages of fuel, especially diesel, which is used to power the electricity generators that feed the nation's power grid, which collapsed this summer. Oil shortages have been caused by difficulties in Venezuela, an ally and supplier of the island, and U.S. sanctions. Electric scooter drivers recharge the batteries through normal power sockets and are out of luck when the supply goes down. Authorities in Cuba promote electric motorcycles as efficient and as an alternative to a public transportation system that is plagued by shortages of parts to repair broken down buses and a lack of fuel. On the international scene, at least 2 people have died and about 8,000 people have been evacuated so far as wildfires scorch areas across Spain, according to Isabel Rodriguez, Spain's government spokesperson, on Tuesday. 2 people have died, a firefighter and a farmer, and there are some people seriously injured, according to Rodriguez to reporters after a cabinet meeting in Madrid. Spain currently has 24 active fires. The country has lost 20 hectares or 49,000 acres of land during this second wave, and it has lost 70,000 hectares or 172,000 acres this year so far. These 70,000 hectares are a figure that is double that of the last decade average, a government spokesperson on the situation explained. Spain has faced its 5 consecutive days with high temperatures. Rodriguez added that temperatures are set to decrease over the next couple of days. Official sources from the government indicate that heat-related deaths through Sunday totaled at 679. Meanwhile, still on the international scene, around a third of the U.S. population is under a heat alert on Tuesday and Wednesday as dangerous heat peaks today and tomorrow over much of the country. More than 100 million Americans are under heat alerts that touch portions of more than 20 states. The worst of the heat today will be centered over the plains, lower Mississippi into much of Texas, where heat warnings are in effect. Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, Oklahoma City, and Memphis are under excessive heat warnings. Dallas and Oklahoma City could hit 110 degrees today, with a heat index as high as 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Low temperatures will stay above 80 degrees Fahrenheit. The heat is building in the Northeast, with heat advisories for tomorrow in New York, Philadelphia, and Boston, where highs will be in the 90s, and the heat index will be around 100 degrees Fahrenheit on Wednesday afternoon. The heat is expected to linger in many locations into the weekend. Around 265 million Americans, or over 80% of the population, is expecting to see a high above 90 degrees Fahrenheit over the next week. More than 60 million people are expected to see a high temperature at or above 100 degrees Fahrenheit over the next 7 days. The extreme heat is leading to high fire danger across northern Texas and parts of Oklahoma, where more than 10 million people are under red flag warnings, including Dallas. Stay tuned to Midday News on Suncity 104.9 FM. We'll have sports right after this. Now for news in sports, Jamaica's Reggae Girls have finished third at the CONCACAF Women's Championship for the second successive tournament after an extra time 1-0 win over Costa Rica in Monterrey, Mexico on Monday night. Calissa Van Zanten scored the only goal in the 102nd minute to give the Jamaicans the victory and keep their dream of qualifying for their first Olympic Games alive. The Reggae Girls will now play the tournament runner-ups in a two-way Olympic playoff tie next October to decide who joins the tournament championship in Paris 2024. Costa Rica had early possession of Daphne Herrera, wasted a clear chance after only 5 minutes. Jamaica had their moments, but nothing to really challenge the Costa Ricans, who continued to create the better openings but lacked follow-through. Jamaica's best chance came at the end of the half, but Khadija Shaw could not connect with any power from 6 yards after a loose ball fell in her path. The Lauren Donaldson coach team then managed the remainder of the game to come away with a good win, only their second over the Costa Ricans in 6 head-to-head clashes. She broke away and calmly slotted home. In international sports, Danny Murphy has claimed that Manchester United will have no chance of competing against top teams if Christian Eriksen and Bruno Fernandes play at the same time. Eriksen has joined Manchester United on a free transfer this summer. He spent the final few months of last season at Brentford. The midfielder shone for the newly promoted side as he helped them finish 13th in the Premier League. Manchester United right to wait for Eriksen hags Van Dijk amid renewed optimism. Fernandes, meanwhile, signed for Manchester United at the start of 2020 for an initial fee of £47 million. The deal for him could rise to around £68 million. Portugal international has been one of their best performers over the past couple of years. He has grabbed 50 goals and 38 assists in 125 appearances for United across all competitions. Now to end this newscast, we take a look at the main stories once more. On the local scene, police probing a drowning of 6-year-old at Hanover Hotel. Victim of suspected St. Anne triple murder identified, and man dies in Manchester after crashing into utility pole. On the regional scene, a Trinidadian police officer charged with 2020 murder. On the international scene, Spain official report at least 2 dead and about 8,000 people evacuated so far due to Spain's wildfires. And in sports, Reggae Girls' Olympic dream still alive. And that's it for news and sports from the Suncity News Center at this time. Do join us again at 5 p.m. for more news on this station. Do remember to follow us on all our socials on Instagram and Twitter. Look for us at Suncity104.9 FM and on Facebook at Suncity Radio104.9 FM. I'm Jada Francis from the Suncity News Center. Do stay tuned for more right here on this station.
They say that when it hits you, it hits you. Some call it love, attraction, desire,